For over 20 years, one man held billions of dollars in trust. Banks believed him. Regulators believed him. Even his own sons had no idea. What he was really hiding would become one of the largest frauds in history. This is the story from the beginning.
6:15 in the morning. Federal agents are standing outside a Manhattan apartment door. They knock once. The door opens before they finish knocking. Across town, on the 17th floor of an office tower, the lights are still on. Desks sit untouched, coffee has gone cold. By morning, the people who once filled this room will be gone for good. Inside the apartment, a 70-year-old man sits calmly, already dressed for a day that will never arrive. Within hours, tens of billions of dollars will vanish, not stolen, not transferred. They will simply stop existing, because they never existed at all. To understand how that's possible, we have to go back, not hours, years. December 2008. Manhattan is in freefall. Banks are collapsing. Stock prices are dropping by the hour. Trading floors that once buzzed with noise now sit unusually quiet. Investors across the city are pulling their money out wherever they still can. Phones ring constantly. Voices are tense. But the real danger in this story isn't the crisis outside. 3 floors above one quiet trading desk, a 70-year-old man sits alone behind his desk. The blinds are drawn. He's simply waiting. For more than 20 years, this man built one of the most respected investment firms on Wall Street. Banks believed it. Charities believed it. Even regulators believed it. Only one detail in that belief was wrong. All of it. The money his clients thought was sitting safely in their accounts wasn't there. It never had been. And he was the only person alive who knew how long that lie could last. That night, he called his 2 sons to his apartment. His voice, normally steady, was barely above a whisper. What he said next would end his career, his freedom, and everything people thought they knew about him. Before the lie, there was just a kid from Queens, worked as a lifeguard on the beaches of Long Island. He installed sprinkler systems to earn extra cash. By the time he was 22, he had saved about $5,000. It was enough to start a small brokerage firm. In the 1960s, Wall Street still ran on paper and phone calls. Madoff saw an opportunity. He pushed early electronic trading systems, years before they became standard. Picture rows of blinking terminals replacing stacks of paper tickets overnight. His firm grew faster than anyone expected. Other traders respected his speed and his confidence. Slowly, his name started carrying weight in financial circles. Madoff was elected chairman of the Nasdaq Stock Exchange, not once. 3 separate times. If the man overseeing one of the world's biggest markets ran his own investment firm, surely it had to be legitimate. He sat on industry boards. He advised regulators. He was invited to charity galas, country clubs, and private dinners. Bernie Madoff wasn't seen as a salesman chasing clients. He was seen as an insider. Looking at his resume alone, it's easy to understand the next part of his story. Most people in that position would have trusted him too. But trust, in this story, was never really about him. Normally, financial advisors compete for clients. They pitch, they market, they beg for meetings. Madoff did the opposite. He turned people away. He told prospective investors his fund was full. He put new applicants on waiting lists that sometimes lasted years. At first glance, that looks like arrogance. It wasn't. Word began spreading quietly through private clubs and charity boards. Picture a charity gala, hushed conversations. A name passed quietly between glasses of champagne. Being accepted as a client became a status symbol in itself. Investors weren't drawn in by complex financial analysis. They were drawn in by other investors. Friends told friends. Country clubs become me referral networks. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people didn't invest with Madoff because they understood his strategy. They invested because everyone around them already had. And that raises an uncomfortable question. Why wasn't anyone seriously suspicious? It was 1999. He'd been given a simple assignment. Study Madoff's returns. Try to copy his strategy. Instead, within minutes, something felt deeply wrong. He ran the math again. And again. Same result every time. Whatever this was, it wasn't a trading strategy. His name was Harry Markopoulos. He believed he was looking at a fraud, and a massive one. So he did what any responsible analyst would do. He wrote a report and sent it to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Nothing happened. He wrote another report in 2001. Still nothing. But investigators had already missed something far more obvious. No one had ever verified that Madoff's trades actually existed. A single phone call to the clearinghouse could have exposed the entire fraud in an afternoon. That call was never made. A fund managing tens of billions of dollars was being audited by a firm of just 3 people, working out of a small storefront office north of the city, a single fax machine, a few metal filing cabinets, one part-time accountant. In 2005, he submitted an even more detailed report. The SEC opened inquiries. They interviewed Madoff. That should have ended things right there. It didn't. Marco Polos later described feeling like he was shouting into a void. He even worried at times for his own safety. This wasn't a case of no one knowing. This was a case of warnings being repeatedly ignored. By late 2008, the financial crisis was tearing through global markets. Madoff's clients were no exception. Redemption requests began pouring in. Picture the stack of withdrawal letters growing taller by the day. Madoff reportedly needed close to $7 billion. Where was that money supposed to come from? It never existed in the first place. The fund's entire balance for years had lived mostly on paper. Those final days were tense inside the firm. Employees noticed Madoff growing distant and unusually quiet. He stopped returning certain calls. He sat for long stretches simply staring at his phone, saying nothing. On the night of December 10th, he asked his sons to come to his apartment. The room was dim. Madoff's hands trembled as he finally spoke. He admitted the investment business was, in his words, one big lie. For a moment, no one in the room moved. That same night, they contacted a lawyer. The next morning, federal authorities were notified. On December 11, 2008, FBI agents arrived at Madoff's apartment just after dawn. This was the knock from the very beginning of the story. There is no innocent explanation, he told them. As investigators dug through the firm's records, one question kept coming up. How had his trades always seemed to win? What they found surprised even veteran prosecutors. Client statements showed roughly $65 billion in assets. Almost none of it actually existed. Picture boxes of old trade tickets, stacked floor to ceiling, every single one of them fake. Many had been fabricated after the fact, using historical prices already known to have performed well. He hadn't simply hidden a few bad years of losses. He'd spent decades manufacturing a certainty that was never real. Retirees who believed they were financially secure discovered, overnight, that their savings were gone. Charitable foundations were forced to shut their doors entirely. Picture empty halls were galas, once filled with donors, now dark and silent. 2 years after his arrest, almost to the day, Madoff's son Mark died by suicide. It was a tragedy that underscored just how far the damage reached beyond the balance sheets. In March 2009, Madoff pleaded guilty to multiple federal charges. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison, dying in federal custody in 2021. His name became permanently linked to one word: Ponzi. It's tempting to view this story as one man's singular evil, but that explanation is too simple and far too comfortable. Madoff didn't outsmart the financial system. He understood something most of us never examine in ourselves. That trust is easier to borrow from others than to verify alone. It only required an audience that had already decided to stop checking. A closed circle protects itself simply by feeling exclusive. And exclusivity will always feel safer than asking to see the books. That pattern didn't end in 2008. It only lost its name for a while. Somewhere, right now, a version of this same room exists. Different numbers, different faces. The same quiet agreement not to be the one who asks. Because most lies don't survive on the strength of the liar. They survive on how badly everyone in the room wants them to be true. And the truest danger was never Bernie Madoff. It was how comfortable it felt, for over 20 years, to simply stop looking.
It was how comfortable it felt, for over 20 years, to simply stop looking. That's where this dollar ended up. Where does yours go next? This was Next Dollar. Every dollar leaves a trail. If you want to keep following it, subscribe to Next Dollar.